Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I have Logan with me. Logan, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Now that I've recovered from technical difficulties, I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean, normally we start at like 11 in the UK, so 20 minutes ago, but I mean, you can't help these issues, and PCs mess up all the time and all that stuff. But have you been playing anything interesting this past week?
Yeah, I've been playing a bunch of stuff. I've been playing Mighty Doom, which I'm hooked on. Like every day, I gotta get my run or two on there. I've been playing new Power Wash Simulator content dropped today, so I was checking that out. I'm on the currently the satellite dish um, section where it's like almost Area 51 vibes, and you got this massive radar dish thing. I've been on that. I started Ghostwire Tokyo, really digging the Japanese folklore and spirits and mysticism and the Doctor Strange like combat, and also playing Crash Bandicoot 4. It's kind of an odd mix, but I've been really enjoying it, man.
Yeah, well, I've pretty much just been playing Mass Effect. Shocker there. I'm almost done with the trilogy. Hogwarts Legacy, that game is just massive. The funny thing about that game is there's so much side content that you actually want to do it. Kind of puts you off from playing like the main campaign, kind of like The Witcher 3. But outside of that, some Ghostwire. And screw it, let's go straight into the Ghostwire impressions. I think that game is great. Fun fact about that game, I never paid any attention to it before its release. I was like, well, I'm not going to play this for a year, so I'm just going to ignore it. I'll read enough about it to cover it in videos, and that's it. So when I've done top lists and Ghostwire's been in there, it's because I've read the blurb and just made a video. Plus, the blurb pretty much covers what you do in that game. You destroy spirits with magic, and it's a magic first-person shooter. I will say this, though. Its default controls, its sensitivity settings are kind of bad. I messed around with them a bit, and it's smooth now. I am playing on performance mode, and I think it's great. A lot of people do have some concerns with the gameplay and the controls, but if you narrow down the dead zones in that game, it plays a lot better. It's the same with a lot of first-person shooters these days. The recent Call of Duty, I hated the default sensitivity settings on that, so I had to mess about with them. So if you play a first-person shooter and it kind of feels off, or like even if you play in performance mode with the default controls, it feels like the frame rate is skipping, even though it's just your camera movement, because there's zero acceleration. And if you play things like, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, if that isn't smooth, it feels like you've got a bad frame rate. So if you mess about with it, it's better. All in all, I've put about, I don't know, maybe 5 hours into it. I really need to get back to it. It's a great game, having a lot of fun with it. It's very easy. I'm not complaining, but I thought it being easy was kind of a breath of fresh air because everything I've been playing lately just has these difficulty spikes. So that for me, I'm fine with it. Logan, what did you think of the controls for it?
I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not very far into it because I started today, but the controls feel, relatively fluid to me. Um, crouch, sneak up, do magic, different powers, like almost energy coming out of your hands, and then like the lore is really cool. And I kind of like the Slender Man crossover almost. Like it's not really Slender Man, but I think that's fun. Um, yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like I don't know why it got a bunch of kind of meh comments or reviews when it launched because I haven't had any issues with it so far, and I'm glad it's finally on Xbox.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, the issues that people had with it last year, I don't really see them. I honestly think it might have something to do with it being a first-person game. Like, whenever I post footage or GIFs or talk about first-person camera games, first-person perspective games, I always get at least one comment saying, I wish it was third-person. But, if all these games were released in third-person, I guarantee you, we wouldn't see the same, but the other way around. But all in all, I think it's a good game. I think people should play it. It's a relatively small size on console as well. And speaking of game sizes, Star Wars Jedi Survivor comes out next week. the game looks phenomenal. It has Coruscant as one of the levels, apparently, which I've been wanting for a very long time. Well, the funny thing about this game, the storage has just came off it, the storage sizes. So on PC, it's 144 gigabytes. So for console, it could have been anything. But today, we finally got the sizes, and I don't know what to say. So for Xbox Series X, it's 140 gigabytes. For Xbox Series S, it's 44 gigabytes. People have been wondering today, why is it so smaller? And it's because it's 4K textures. Like, if you ever see a huge storage size difference in between the S and the Series X, it's the 4K textures. We start to see huge texture upgrades with the One X. Some of those patches were actually pretty big. Well, we're getting the same on the Series S when it comes to storage sizes. But hey, I think people should have expected that. When it comes to these games now, like very highly detailed games with like lots of levels and stuff, like I think people just got to expect it. Like the amount of this game's meant to have more cutscenes, more cinematic cutscenes. It's a bigger game, and Jedi Fallen Order was already big, so it doesn't bother me that much. I mean, it is at a stage during the generation where we all kind of look at our storage and think, what do I delete now? Because until that storage option gets cheaper, I'm not surprised people are having to delete stuff all the time and move back and forth between the internal. But hey, it is what it is. Logan, what do you think of the whole storage size thing? Because 140 gigabytes makes you think, how big Starfield's going to be?
Yeah, it's like Starfield gonna be 500 at this point. I mean, you've got 1,000 planets to deal with, and Bethesda games are quite taxing to begin with. So, and this is supposedly their biggest adventure yet. So, but yeah, Fallen Order. Gosh dang, I always get the names confused on the Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. They're similar. Size doesn't surprise me, but I'm already clearing away storage for it. We've talked about it at length, how Xbox has a storage problem, and it would be nice if they had cheaper options, and hopefully we get more. But in the meantime, I'll just clear off some games and get it ready to go next week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I realized I just had the Diablo 4 beta still on the console, so I was just like, oh, I might as well delete that. Don't need it anymore. I've always end up having something on my hard drive that I just don't need. Yet I always choose to keep Mass Effect on there, even though I may not be playing it at the time. But yeah, big storage issue. But hey, now that Western Digital is going to come out with a card, I think it's going to come out in the summer. It's a good look, because for the longest time, Seagate has had that on lock, and now other developers, or I should say manufacturers, can start making them. Now, as for games this generation, we just have to get used to big storage sizes. I'll address the Japanese question in a bit, because I want to lump the whole JRPG thing all together. But hey, the game's going to be big. I'm looking forward to it. And plus, like, the first game was my game of the year, 2020. Or was it 2019 at least? 2019, that was
I think 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. It came out like before the pandemic started, so all that time merged because we were in a 4-month lockdown, like in the beginning of 2020. So like time at that point kind of merged together. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. Just clear up some storage. And speaking of Star Wars, some news came available about a few hours ago before the show started, and that's Star Wars Battlefront 3. So one of the developers from Naughty Dog basically posted this today on about how Star Wars Battlefront 3, the original one from 2009, whatever it was going to come out, was apparently like 2 yards from the finishing line. Now, there's a bunch of Star Wars games that's been cancelled over the years, literally minutes away from being finished. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, 1313, yeah. Darth Maul game. Just, oh my gosh, there's so many good ones.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars 1313, that still stings. Like, you can watch the whole, like, footage that's available on YouTube at the minute. It looks amazing still to this day. The Darth Maul game was basically going to be Arkham Asylum, but with Darth Maul. And it was a really cool premise. And it's unfortunate because at that time, in the late like 2000s, there was Star Wars games coming out all the time that would, or I should say, in development all the time that just got cancelled. It's topic. Like I found out recently that, and also heartbreaking by the way, that Lego Star Wars, the new one that's also on Game Pass, apparently that was going to get a Mandalorian expansion. It's not going to happen anymore.
Oh, that's bull. That's awful.
Yeah, like I found that out about a week ago, and considering the source from where I heard it from, I think it's pretty reliable. And the fact we would have seen proper, full on, Mando, voice acting and all that stuff in like actual episodes in Lego form, it's heartbreaking. So many Star Wars projects get cancelled. I think about 5 EA Star Wars projects got cancelled in the past 10 years. Just so many games just gone. And I think in time we will see things like leak online. So Star Wars Battlefront 3 will eventually be online somehow, somewhere. We all know how at some point. And the thing is, the Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original one, that was really ambitious. If anyone in chat played it, please let me know, because like in that game you could fight on ground, go up into the air and fly into a capital ship, get out of your spaceship, and then run around and fight other characters. Like, super ambitious at the time. No other game was doing anything like it, and that was 2005.
Yeah, I'll keep it real. I actually prefer the original Battlefront 1 and 2 compared to the EA ones. Like, even though the graphics and, technology is vastly superior now, the actual gameplay and galactic conquest and all this stuff and the hero battles, like, I love the 2005 one that came out right with Revenge of the Sith. It is just masterclass.
Yeah, oh, don't get me wrong, the new ones look amazing. Like Star Wars Battlefront 2, like, was it 2019, 2020, whatever it came out, 2017, that, in the Geonosis level, is one of the best looking video games to date. And you can play it now. It's an incredible looking game. But Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2005, was amazing. There's no game like it to this day. And I wish we could play it online on console. Unfortunately,
Same.
we can't. That would be a good thing that Microsoft and EA could do at some point. Try and get those servers up and running, because I think a lot of people would like to go back and play that. But yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 3 was apparently close to coming out. Heartbreaking, but we just have to get used to these negative Star Wars game cancellations at this point. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, let's make fun of Ubisoft. Now, I love a lot of Ubisoft games. Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell. I liked parts of the first Division game, Prince of Persia, Rayman. The list goes on. So a lot of people have been wanting more, and people have been wondering, when is Ubisoft Plus coming to console? Because that thing was teased January 2022. And here we are, April 2023, and it's now available on Xbox, and it's $18 a month. Now, the UK price, I believe it's £17. For that price, you can get Netflix and Disney Plus each month for that price. Like, appalling. I've seen a few polls on Twitter about this. Like, the service just doesn't make any sense. Like, I love Ubisoft titles, a lot of them, but like that service is just too expensive. Way too expensive. Like, when you get Game Pass, you have a library of hundreds of games. When you get EA Access, you have a library of about, I think, 50, and you also have the backwards compatible ones in there as well. So you have a lot. But I think for like people like me and you and a lot of people listening, like, you already have a lot of those games, especially the EA ones. So subscribing to EA Access doesn't really make much sense. But the fact it's bundled in with, Game Pass Ultimate, it makes sense. Like, I subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate because of the extra benefits, play EA games without putting the disc in, all that stuff. Good value. Well, this is more than Game Pass Ultimate. There's less games, and the big kicker, right, is that there aren't any Xbox 360 games in the service. Why? Like, Logan, you must have seen that, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably because they yanked the servers on those. Like, remember a few weeks ago there was a listing from a bunch of the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed games and everything. They were gonna basically make them unplayable, like online for like co-op or for multiplayer modes and stuff like that. So my guess is they just decided not to include them in the server and in the service, which it takes away value. It's like you're charging almost $20 a month for just one publisher's properties, which, frankly have been mixed as of late at best. Is It's a DOA kind of, in my opinion, at that price. Like, if they include it with Game Pass Ultimate, that'd be incredible. Or if they had it at a lower price, but like 18 a month, like get out of here. That's ridiculous.
Because like as I was saying, like EA Access is fairly cheap, but I think EA Access is mainly aimed at newcomers, which makes sense. Game Pass makes sense for a lot of gamers because of the range, and you have multiplayer games in, you have co-op, it also has your PC stuff as well if you do PC Game Pass, and then it's all bundled together with Ultimate. But like, I'll say this, as a fan of a lot of Ubisoft titles, people should not subscribe to Ubisoft Plus. It is not worth it at all. And like, you can buy a lot of their games in sale most of the time. Like, I've seen certain Ubisoft games listed for like £2, so they'd be like $4 or something. So like, you may as well just wait for a Ubisoft sale, buy a bunch of the games you've been wanting to play, and just play them that way, because the service at that value makes no sense. And I think that's a big problem, because they're going to judge the numbers off this service early on and think, oh, well, console gamers don't want to play Ubisoft games. It's like, no, they don't want to pay £17 a month. That is ridiculous. Again, you can get Disney Plus and Netflix for that every month. It's ridiculous. And I can't see people realistically subscribing to that at all. Like, Logan, do you think anyone will actually subscribe to this?
I mean, maybe if there are some just diehard Ubisoft stans out there that are just like, Ubi or nothing, let's go. Like, maybe some, like, zealots, but outside of that, it doesn't make... The value is just not there, period. Like, it's one thing if it's all these masterclass titles and the brand new one, all brand new, and you get older games, and you get DLCs, and you get all this, that, bag of chips, whatever. But for what they're offering, to charge that much up front and just launching the service and saying, hey, we're going to try it out and we're going to market it like it's a premium service instead of just what it is it's ridiculous and out of touch with reality. It looks more like a Square Enix type move than a Ubisoft move.
While you were mentioning that, I decided to look up the price for EA Access just to see what it's like, and it changes. It's either called EA Access or EA Play. Yeah, EA Play. So EA Play in 2023 for a whole year, right? 12 months subscription on Xbox for EA Play costs $19.99 a month. A whole year. Yet Ubisoft wants $17.99 for 1 month. Like, there's a bit of a difference in value and price there, but yeah, I mean, if people want to get a year of EA Play for $19.99, yeah, go for it. I highly recommend it. But like, Ubisoft Plus, that's just an awful price. I really think people shouldn't subscribe to it. Just get the games on sale, you'll save some money. And we'll move on. Speaking of Square, Square Enix has already started to put Octopath Traveler 2 on sales in certain stores in certain regions. Now,
who knew they wouldn't reach a market? Who knew?
Yeah, and the thing is, people keep telling me they won't put these games on Xbox because they won't sell and there isn't a market for them. Well, where's the market for them buying it? Because Octopath Traveler 1 sold incredibly well. It was heavily marketed with Nintendo. And then the first game came over to Xbox, and it was a day one Xbox Game Pass title. So Microsoft paid up front for the Game Pass version, and that was that. Not a single copy sold on PlayStation, because it wasn't released there. But they released the sequel there, and not on Xbox. So they had a 0% install base on PlayStation that had any incentive to buy it outside of wanting a new JRPG. But there are people on Xbox that would have bought it. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't sold. It's sold zero on PlayStation. That's not my point. My point is that there was already an existing player base for the franchise on Xbox, yet they didn't release the sequel on it, which is stupid. And in their next quarterly statement, they're going to say games missed to, meet expectations. We see it every few months. And the Pixel remasters are about to come out. They'll say the same thing. And do you know what's I'm going to rant a bit about Square Enix and how pathetic they are, right? I try to be professional, but maybe not today. So the Pixel remasters, the first 6 games, very, obviously Pixel remasters, the old classics. Who would want to play old Final Fantasy classics from their childhood, probably, on an Xbox? Apparently no one. But guess what? The Fire tablet, the Kindle, has a bigger install base for these games, apparently. Shut up. No, it doesn't. It blows my mind that Square Enix, as bad as they are, decided to put the Pixel remasters on Fire tablets. Not just Android, but Fire tablets and not Xbox. What's the point? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I've seen people for years say, hey, I want these classic Final Fantasy games on Xbox and on other platforms as well. I've seen people on Twitter say, hey, I want the original Resident Evil 2 on Xbox. So do I. I want those original classics on the platform. But you have Square Enix making these weird moves. They fail to hit expectations for sales, and then they come out with a statement saying that they aren't going to change their business practices. So where does it end? Are they looking to be bought out? Because there's something weird going on over there. They make continuous bad decisions and expect change. Literally the definition of insanity. It blows my mind. Really think about it. The Pixel remasters are going to be available on iOS, Android, PlayStation, Switch, PC, Kindle tablets. Amazon Kindle, really? Logan, I'm still gobsmacked.
I have given up trying to understand or explain Square Enix's decision making. They clearly exist on a higher plane of existence than us mere mortals, and we are just incapable of comprehending their greatness and their sheer superiority in intellect and decision making, that we just cannot process their rationale. I have no idea what they're doing. It is just it's just comical. It's like, really? You can practically run this thing on a TI-84 calculator for math class, and you're saying you won't put it on Xbox when it would cost maybe just a smidge to make it happen? But it's mind-boggling. It's insane. It's irrational. It feels like there's stuff behind this. I don't know. It's weird, and I've given up trying to understand Square. And for the people who love their games, pour one out for you, man. Because if you want it on Xbox, good luck. Because it don't feel like it's happening at this point.
What I don't get is, I don't know what goes behind the scenes of the developer. Sometimes I do, BioWare in the past, but, when it comes to, a developer like that or publisher, I don't understand what's going on, because I don't like to use the term lazy game devs, right? I think that's a horrible term. I put this onto the publisher, but really think about these Pixel remasters. Couldn't they get one dude behind a desk to port these games over? Because I'm guessing they wouldn't need much optimization. These Pixel remasters, they can run on old mobile phones. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And what is their plan long term? Because I've never heard anyone go, hey, actually, I'd be interested after the show's finished if anyone's ever specifically asked for Final Fantasy Pixel remasters on Kindle tablets. I'd be shocked to see if there's a single dude online that has asked for that. Not Android, not iOS specifically, but Kindle tablets. Screw it. I'm going to do research later after the show's finished. I bet not a single person has ever asked that, but people are asking for Xbox versions. And here's the thing, right? Every single time a person online says, "Hey, I want this to come to Xbox," or the reply to a Square Enix post with, an Xbox version of like the game art, right? That doesn't exist. You have these people saying, "No, just buy an Xbox." I should say, just buy a PlayStation, just buy a Switch. Play it on PC. But it's not about that. It's about like Square Enix can't ever gain a fan base on Xbox if they just randomly cherry pick games that come to the platform. Like last year, we got Crisis Core the remake, which has elements of a remaster and a remake, and I love that game. I will tell people they need to play Crisis Core. Beautiful, incredible game. More people need to play it. But then we got Star Ocean. Star Ocean in the UK hasn't even had marketing. I've never seen a single ad for it outside of me looking for a trailer. And then we got that Diofield Chronicles or whatever the hell it's called. I always mess up its name. I apologize, but we don't get the pixel remasters. What's going on? What even makes sense anymore? Am I in the freaking Matrix? Am I made of chocolate? I don't know. But Square Enix keeps doing these stupid things because we don't know what's going on over there. Is Kingdom Hearts 4 coming to Xbox? We don't know. We got 3 first, and then we got the HD collection. I think it was like a year and a half later, 2 years later. Don't know. The problem is now that every single time they announce a game, people are just waiting for that end profile where, it says the name of the game and then the console platforms underneath. People wait to see Xbox just not listed there anymore. And it's sad because they can't generate a fan base on the platform if they keep doing that. Yakuza, of all franchises, has a built-in fan base on Xbox now. They released 0 through 6 in Game Pass day one, and then when they released 7, or should I say Like a Dragon, they had an existing fan base. That game didn't even launch in Game Pass. And the Judgment games came to Xbox as well. The latest Yakuza game, Like a Dragon Ishin, came to Xbox as well, not in Game Pass. Sega plans to bring, I think it's the 3 other Yakuza games that have been announced are also coming to Xbox. So it's like, is there a market for JRPGs on Xbox or just Yakuza? Because clearly Sega's making money from it. We got Dragon Quest 11. Are we going to get Dragon Quest 12? Are we going to get Dragon Quest 2 3D or whatever it's called? Don't know. Square Enix. And it's a shame because I remember as a kid seeing their logo on a box thinking, wow, I'm going to play this game and I'm going to have an amazing time. I remember it was one of the Final Fantasy games on Game Boy. Can't remember what it was called. It might have been The Legend of Final Fantasy 2 or something. And I had an incredible experience with it. And I had this Final Fantasy experience in my hands. And then that carried forward to when I got a PlayStation and a PlayStation 2. And then when the original Xbox came out, I just thought we'd get games there as well. The first Final Fantasy game on an Xbox was Final Fantasy XI, the MMO. Right? I don't know a single person that played that on any platform because over here, MMOs were pretty much just dominated by World of Warcraft. We got Final Fantasy 13 when that came out. One of the most divisive games ever. Even though I like a lot of things about Final Fantasy 13. I think the character designs are cool. I like the soundtrack. I like the combat system. And then we didn't get a new Final Fantasy game, like a new full-on entry, till 15. And apparently 15 sold well on Xbox. But we don't get 16. We get the prequel to 7, but we don't get 7 Remake. Gives me a headache. Man. Logan, do you think we're ever going to see another Square Enix AAA game on Xbox?
Ever is a long time and is a pretty definitive statement, but I would say as of this moment, I would not expect for the foreseeable future any major Square Enix titles. And if they're bought by Sony, which a lot of people think will happen, it's not like a report or anything. I'm just saying a lot of people that throwing stuff at the wall kind of think that it just makes sense that if Sony were to buy a publisher, that Square Enix would be a good fit for them. It's like if that were to happen, then you could just take it to the bank. Yeah, you're just kiss those games goodbye. They're just not happening. But if that doesn't happen, then I would still hold out a little bit of hope. But it's like very, very faint and dim light hope at this point.
I mean, if you look at all the future games that are coming to Xbox, none of them are by Square. I can't think of a single Square Enix project coming to Xbox. Not one. At all. And, I can think of, like if Persona 6 gets announced this year, well, okay, the rumor is there's going to be 2 Persona games announced this year. There's the remake for 3 and Persona 6. Let's say, hypothetically, both of those games just come to Xbox, right? So, are we in the camp of, hey, these games aren't coming to Xbox because there's no, market for JRPGs, or is it because Square Enix, and I'm trying not to swear on my own channel, bunch of nasty people.
Goofballs.
Yeah, bear in mind, before I continue, I'm from the northeast of England. It requires me a lot of effort not to swear. But it's ridiculous. Like we will probably see more Persona games on Xbox this year, and Sega clearly sees a market in it. It's just unfortunate because I see people every single day on Twitter asking for these games. Like it's a bloody pixel game. We can't get the pixely games. Like how does Square Enix justify Crisis Core the remake, but not the pixel games? Like, I don't understand that correlation. And I think we will be talking about JRPGs later in the show regarding to Xbox exclusives. So we'll be coming back to this topic in a little bit. We'll move on. But for now, okay, EXO Primal. Logan, did you play the beta?
I did not, but I have heard great things, and I've seen that they are actually taking the community feedback to heart and are changing some stuff, that's good news. It's another Japanese developer showing that, hey, they actually listen to the people talking to them, and they're making changes, which is good news.
Yeah, so Capcom making, EXO Primal. The concept is you and a team versus a bunch of dinosaurs. It's the most video gamey thing you can think of. And going into it, people are looking forward to it because it is meant to be a goofy game, right? You're fighting hundreds of dinosaurs, good times. Well, the funny thing about it is that in the game, you're basically playing rounds. You fight against a bunch of dinosaurs for 5 rounds or whatever, and then the final round is PvP. That threw everyone off because it wasn't advertised as a PvP style game. And that was the number one complaint. The PvP rounds felt like so forced and like unnecessary. Like fighting hundreds of dinosaurs on screen is badass, right? Fighting hundreds of velociraptors as they falling through these black holes in the sky, incredible. And then you're forced to fight other players. Trash. Terrible. Worst idea in the universe. And thankfully, Capcom listened to the feedback. That's not going to be a requirement now. It's going to be a separate mode for the PvP, which is great. And honestly, as I put a lot of time into that beta, it was fun. Like, a lot of people have commented on this as well. It's like, how did they have thousands of dinosaurs fall onto a map without the frame rate dipping at all? Incredible. Like, their optimization for that game is incredible. Like, I don't understand how you have that many dinosaurs on screen without the frame rate just going down 1 at all. Incredible. But yeah, that comes out in July. Also, day 1 on Xbox Game Pass. And thankfully, it won't have the forced PvP mode, which was just awful. But hey, it's going to be there for people that want it, which is the most important thing. Before I move on, if people are enjoying the show, we're half an hour into the show. If you're enjoying it, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. It really helps the channel out. If you want anything read out loud or anything like that, super chats are live and all that stuff. Anyway, so Hogwarts Legacy launched in February. I think it's an amazing game, but there was something missing from it. Quidditch. Now, Quidditch has been a part of Harry Potter, since it existed. And we've had Harry Potter games in the past with Quidditch, but it's been such a long time without a Harry Potter game in the AAA space. Well, we just hadn't had anything. I can't speak, apparently. So anyway, Hogwarts Legacy comes out, and there's talk of Quidditch throughout the entire game. Quidditch this, Quidditch that. There's a little store that sells, Quidditch things. But you can't play Quidditch in the game. There's a full-size Quidditch pitch, but you can't play Quidditch. And it turns out that probably got cut earlier on in development. Nobody knew why. And last night, at about 10 p.m. UK time, they announced a brand new game, Quidditch World Champions, via an FAQ. Not with a trailer, not with screenshots or a GIF. Not what, like a lot of these companies, they'll post a teaser video showing you something ominous of, like, something in the distance, maybe a blurred out image. No, they just put out an FAQ saying, what's the game entail? What's it about? Which platforms is going to be on? Does it require internet to be on? All that stuff. They announced a new game via FAQ. And that made a lot of people think, including myself, that's why Hogwarts Legacy doesn't have Quidditch. Because they're going to have this separate game which they can sell people on. Now, on one hand, I'm thinking, damn you, WB, for making me going to spend probably, I bet it'll be like £25. It'll be like $30 or something. But on the other hand, I think it's going to be cool that we're going to have this kind of multiplayer-centric Quidditch game. And I'm kind of okay with it in a way. Because as much as the flight is good in Hogwarts Legacy, that flight is not made for Quidditch. You can't strafe from side to side. Not really. So, like, being in goal in that game wouldn't make sense. Going for the quaffle wouldn't make sense. And being a nerd, I know. But, like, all in all, Quidditch game coming out. Logan, what's your thoughts? Because, like, it's going to be big, probably.
It makes sense. Oh, sorry. It makes sense to me. I'm glad they're releasing it. While it would have been nice to have it included in the base game, I can understand making it its own game for those who just want to focus on that, or those who want to have it as a kind of a set-aside experience. And I think that one will be a big, big hit, especially if they sell it at kind of that mid-tier price, where it's not like what a current-gen game generally costs, but it's not quite indie price either. Maybe in that, $40-ish range or so. I bet they'd make a lot of money off that.
Yeah, I mean, the potential's huge because, like, Quidditch is, like, such an interesting sport. Like, people play that in real life, by the way. Obviously, the brooms aren't flying. It's a bunch of people running around a football pitch with a broom between their legs. It's kind of funny to watch, but, like, in a video game form, it makes sense. And plus, there was a Quidditch game in the early 2000s. Obviously, I don't think it had multiplayer. But for a multiplayer game, if it has, like, cross-play and cross-progression, it would be huge. If you can make your own teams, FIFA style, the sky's the limit. So while I do think it would have been cool to have a Quidditch expansion, I think it'll be alright. It will be cheap. I can't see them launching a Quidditch-only game for $70. I'm willing to bet money on that. Not happening. But hey, it's going to happen. And the fact that they just announced it with an FAQ makes me think it's going to be not that far out. You can sign up for open beta right now. It starts from I think it's the 21st of April to the 28th of April. So it's free to sign up. Go onto the website right now. You can select your platform, all that stuff. It's available on everything, I think. But yeah, I highly recommend people try that. Again, it should be fun. I'm just looking forward to how a Quidditch game plays in 2023. It should be pretty cool. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, Suicide Squad. Now, that game got announced last year-ish, and it had mixed thoughts, and we finally saw gameplay in motion this year at one of the PlayStation State of Plays. And people had pretty much worldwide the same thought. It looks like Crackdown with superheroes and guns. All in all, I think it could be fun. I think it would have made more sense to see Harley Quinn with, like, the mallet and, Captain Boomerang use boomerangs. but the fact that they all use guns kind of threw people off a bit. Well, anyway, that got delayed, and so basically the delay rumor came out about 2 months ago, and there's been no update since. The developer hasn't spoke about the game at all, and then literally weeks away, about a month away from release, they literally delayed it till February 2024. That's a big delay. Like, out of nowhere, that's a big delay. Logan, what's your thought on that? Because, like, it was out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like they were biding their time and waiting till other drama was going on to kind of just, like a thief in the night, just drop the news and run. Like a Friday news dump kind of thing. And yeah, till February. That's almost a year delay. Like, then you consider how long Rocksteady's been working on this game, like, in general. Wasn't this supposed to have been released in a pre-pandemic world in 2020? So, like, basically, like, a 4-year delay from when it was originally supposed to come out is pretty wild and unprecedented, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because, like, that game started development when Fortnite came out. So you've got to wonder, like, did they look into the whole Battle Pass situation and how people... Like, at the time, Battle Passes were huge. Fortnite was changing the game to the point where literally every other multiplayer game on the planet had to do Battle Passes. And now, like, people don't want that. People want more single-player centric games than ever before. Like, the second I see loot with damage numbers and all that stuff in a game now, my eyes roll into the back of my head. I can't stand that stuff anymore. I'm out, right? Give me the single-player goodness. Like, hell, I don't mind even a little bit loot. Just, when I see damage numbers on a game now, it just, like... At the minute, there's Final Fantasy footage on screen. You do get damage numbers, but the second I see, like, loot marks and all this stuff, like, that loot-centric game, I'm totally out. It's, like, one of the reasons why, like, I make a rant about this on Twitter maybe every other week. I say that the Mass Effect games were so good because they were 100% story. There's no loot, right? And then in Andromeda, they start putting loot in the game, and they made them open world, and it's like, that just didn't play good anymore. It became less about the story and more about collecting bullcrap. But in the Mass Effect trilogy, it's about Shepard and his adventures with his crew, right? And his blue alien girlfriend. That's what Mass Effect's about. But then they made it about loot. And it insulted me. And now we have other games doing this. Like, the creators of the Arkham games should be allowed to make what they want. And apparently WB Games wanted them to make a looter shooter, right? And I get it. At the time, that was the thing, but people want less of that now. Like, more and more people are, like, the eyes are gauged on single-player stuff. And I just don't know what they were thinking. I'm still looking forward to playing it. I did think it looked fun. But I don't think, like, forced multiplayer-centric games at the minute, just, like, if you aren't Destiny, I don't think there's much of a market for it at all now. So, hey, I wish them the best of luck. Rocksteady have never really let me down. I do think Arkham Knight was the weakest of the games. Sue me. I'm sorry if that offends people, but, like, I thought Arkham City was way, way better. But, yeah, it's a shame. But, hey, it'll be a better game. I'm always for games getting delayed, even if it's a year out. But, yeah, we'll move on. I think it'll be a good game in the end if they listen to the feedback. Speaking of single-player games, a new game got announced at the Game Awards last year with a CGI trailer. It was kind of ominous. It didn't really tell you much. And they didn't give a date or anything. It was only about 20 seconds long. Anyway, about a week ago, we got a brand new trailer for a game called Immortals of Avram. That rolls off the tongue, by the way. And it's a single-player, first-person shooter, but instead of guns, you have magic. Now, to me, I was thinking, well, that should be okay, right? And it's when I heard the creative director talk about the game, and it kind of blew my mind a bit. So, Logan, you've obviously played linear first-person COD campaigns before, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So his description of the game was, in those games, you're running down the streets of New York or whatever country in, like, let's just say Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. You're running down a street, there's snipers on the rooftops aiming at you, there's Black Hawk helicopters flying overhead, And his thought was, well, instead of Black Hawk helicopters, why not have dragons? And instead of having snipers, you have battle mages. And that's what this game is. It's a first-person shooter with magic, which kind of blew my mind because in the video game space, we haven't really had that. We have tons of first-person shooters, and we have some first-person shooters that do have magic in that. Like, you know, you have your Prey and your Bioshock that do have some quote-unquote magic. But we've never really had a proper first-person shooter with magic in the gaming space when literally anything's possible. So now in 2023, it comes out in July. It looks amazing. They said it's about 25 hours long, which is great. That's basically about 3 times the length of a Call of Duty campaign. So to me, that's perfect. It's beautiful. There's going to be some exploration, but it's not open world. It's full-on single player, which is great. There's going to be tons of different magical weapons to use. Again, Unreal Engine 5. They said they're aiming for 60 FPS and ray tracing, which blows my mind. We'll be talking about that in a bit. But the game looks good. And on the 20th of April, we're getting a full gameplay reveal. So there was gameplay in the trailer, but we're going to get full-on gameplay on the 20th. Logan, what do you think about it? Because personally, I think it looked bloody good.
I mean, it sounds awesome to me. Like, you know, thinking about it and listening to first-person shooter, magic, you got dragons, mages, other stuff. It, like, and the visuals and everything, it kind of sets in my mind an image of what if id Software made Hexen today? Kind of like that. Almost vibes. Which sounds pretty sick to me.
Yeah, like, I play a lot of RPGs, but every now and then, like, I'll post on Twitter just a random clip from a Call of Duty game, or Gears, or Quantum Break, or basically a linear game. And it's like, that's how I reset my gaming mojo. I'm doing air quotes, but people can't see me. Like, if I get burnt out in a game, I play a linear game. It just throws me back, and I'm just put down the path. And it's a good way of, like, getting out of that gaming rush, because a lot of open world games just have this samey feel. And every now and then we get this linear game that just, like, it feels right. And the UK lad in chat said, we're talking about Immortals of Avram, single-player, first-person shooter, magic game. And I think it looks cool. I want developers to do more with magic, because in the first-person shooter space, should we really be limited to just guns? Why not magic? Why not spears? We've had first-person bow and arrows with, Far Cry and that, but, like, magic just seems like such a unique thing. And, we've seen first-person magic before with Ghostwire, although that's playing more against spirits and stuff. But hey, it looks good. It looks like they've taken elements of Call of Duty and Doom 2016, putting magic in there, and boom, Immortals of Avram. Looks awesome. And that comes out in, July. And that, by the way, that had a quick announcement from announcement to release. So I hope we see more of that. And again, AAA first-person shooter, magic game. And that's also going to be published by EA. So pretty cool. It might have a trial. I'll post on Twitter if it does. But hey, it looks good. Okay, let's talk about Joseph Staten. Now, as we know, every time someone leaves Xbox or changes position or, falls over, picks something up, the world is fallen. People act like idiots, I'll be honest. Like,
it's over.
The world's over. You have Homer walking down the street ringing a bell because the end is nigh. And like, Joseph Staten's been with Xbox for a long time. He left Xbox for a long time. People remember he was with Bungie. Then he came back to Microsoft, and then he worked on Recore, if I remember correctly. And then he went back to Halo, and now he's leaving Halo again, and now he's going to Netflix Game Studios. And Netflix, they're going to be making a AAA game, which is a new IP. But the exciting part, it's multi-platform, which caught my eye. Because, hey, I think Joseph Staten, he's going to make a great game. I'm all looking forward to it. I'm all looking forward to new IPs. But as someone that, follows Netflix for their gaming stuff and see what gaming announcements they do, all of their games play in their app. And I'm not really big into mobile games at the minute. But the fact that they're going to be making a AAA game that's multi-platform, that has me excited. We also have Amazon Game Studios. They are making Xbox games at the minute. So they aren't just locking themselves into their own service, which is good to see. Obviously, people are going to act like the world's fallen. We just don't know the situation because we hear about all these other studios at Microsoft that they love working for Microsoft, but it's 343 specifically that people just. There's people leaving. Frank O'Connor no longer has listed on LinkedIn that he works at 343, although Frank O'Connor's been accused of some weird things in the past, which I'm not going to mention on the channel. But yeah, Logan, what do you think? Because even though it did come out of nowhere, it kind of doesn't surprise people at the same time.
Yeah, there's been a mass exodus at 343, and you have to kind of wonder if it was a clean house, so to speak, moment where they got together with the heads of various departments and culture and other things and examined like, okay, since 343 has been here, this is what we've accomplished, this is what we've done, this is what's gone right, this is what's gone wrong, and then, like, what are some consistencies here and stuff like that. It wouldn't surprise me if they looked at some stuff and they're like, you know what? We've come to a decision that we kind of just need a reset. And a bunch of old guard have now moved on. Not all of them, but a bunch of them have. Kiki Wolfkill's gone. Bonnie Ross is gone. Joseph Staten's gone. Frank O'Connor's gone. A bunch of people. And they have the guy who was Pierre, who was in charge of fixing Master Chief Collection. He's now in charge of everything. And they have a clear vision, and they're trying to reset and rebuild from here. And I wish them luck. I actually have more confidence now that they've cleaned the slate and are trying again than if they had just tried to keep patching the ship with duct tape and hoping it fixed it. Like, at some point, it's like, okay, this ship is just not seaworthy at this point. We need to build a different ship or take it apart and put it back together with something else. And it seems like they're going for that approach now. And I welcome it. I wish the people the best that are not there anymore. Justice Staten, as for him, he makes great things, and Netflix is an exciting opportunity to be a creative head for a new initiative, make a new AAA multi-platform game. Have no idea what kind of game it'll be, but it allows him to spread his wings and go to a platform that'll still engage with everybody. So I think it's a win for him, and it allows everybody to kind of just go their separate ways and reset and try to fix Halo and get Halo where it needs to go, because this should be seen by people as a sign that Xbox is invested in Halo and they want this thing to survive and get going. Like, if they wanted to just can Halo or, off Halo or whatever, they would have done so by now. Like, clearly, they're invested in it and they want it to thrive and succeed. So they are trying to fix it and have a cultural reset. So, wish them the best, and I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, they brought the dude in that helped fix the, Master Chief Collection, and people have been really positive the Master Chief Collection for a few years now. Like, remember when that launched? It was in a horrible state. Like,
it was terrible.
It was terrible state. Like, and everyone could say that. I've never talked about this specific bug, and I don't think I've told you, Logan, about this. So, I encountered the most weird bug back in the day, and it was kind of hilarious. So, back with Halo 2 Anniversary, I'm playing with my mate. He's, lives about 5 miles away. We're playing on Xbox Live. This is the dumbest bug ever, by the way. So he's driving the Warthog. I'm on the turret. We're going through one of the levels, and next thing I know, the frame kind of freezes. 5 seconds go by, the game resumes. Next thing I know, he's talking to us still, but I notice I'm on a different level. And he's driving weirdly, and I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, where you at? Like, why are you driving this direction? And it turns out the glitch that we had during co-op put me into someone else's game, and put someone else into his game. so as we were talking to each other, there was someone on his turret from a completely different game, and I was controlling someone else's turret, and we were talking to each other like we were crazy people, because I'm like, why aren't you driving properly? Why are we going the wrong way? And maybe I think 20 minutes passed before we realized we're in completely different matches. And it's like, that was the weirdest bug ever in a multiplayer game or co-op or whatever. But like, Halo Master Chief Collection was in a bad state, and now it's great. It has like, unlockables and all this stuff. So if they can do that for MCC, they can do it for Halo Infinite. The number one complaint for Halo Infinite isn't the gameplay. Like, people love the gameplay. It's the content and how often they get it, and like the battle pass and the unlock system and stuff. Like, as someone that doesn't play multiplayer, I know that. If the gameplay is great, they have a good foundation. With the tools they have and the engine, like, if they can put out content more often, people will be happy. Remember Destiny when that came out? Like, it took them a while to get content out because of the game engine and the hardware they were making the games on. Now they are able to get content out more regularly, and people, from what I've seen, other than the last expansion, people seem fairly happy with Destiny's output. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things that's going to take time. But hey, it looks like things are moving forward, and for Xbox, they really need to move forward when it comes to Halo 343 and just in general, really. Because I love Halo, but like, they don't really seem to know what they're doing outside of gameplay. But yeah, we'll move on. But hey, things on the up and up, and the fact that Joseph Staten is working on a new IP, said that out of the gate, it has me excited anyway. Okay, Xbox physical copies. Now, I've seen a lot of people want to mention this because Hi-Fi Rush didn't get a physical copy. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition didn't get an Xbox copy. Although for that, I kind of understand. Ghostwire Tokyo didn't get an Xbox version for physical. And now people wonder, like, is Microsoft out on physical? And people have brought up this picture. And if you go to the Xbox store, and if you go to Ghostwire Tokyo, it shows you a physical copy of, Ghostwire Tokyo. And people are saying, oh, this is misrepresentation and all this stuff because they're promising a physical copy and they're not selling it. Now, I'm going to let the business side of me speak. So when I was at college and we were doing business, one of the modules we did was for marketing. And we had to market a chocolate bar. It was like a granola bar. And on the marketing pictures itself, we weren't allowed to put like the logo of what the bar was called. We had to put a photograph of what the bar looked like. If people can kind of go where I'm going with this. So for marketing purposes, we had to post a picture of what this product would look like full form. And that I see what Microsoft's doing with this. They're doing that here because it's more appealing on the eyes to show a case in a picture as opposed to a flat, still image. And people are looking at that thinking, okay, where's our physical copy? And there is no physical copy. Bit of an issue. And I think Microsoft they need to come out and say which games are getting physical copies up front out of the gate, because Deathloop got an Xbox version. If I remember correctly, Flight Simulator also got a physical version for Xbox. Although, considering that game's pretty much just the download key anyway, but yeah. Logan, what's your thoughts? Because you like the physical games as well.
Yeah, to me, it's a noticeable and irritating issue. Like, I get it that maybe they have numbers that back it up that more Xbox people are digital than physical. I'll admit I've been buying way more digital lately than I had in the past. But there are some games, particularly first-party games, that I like to have physical for my collection. And the fact that they are, for some of their big AAA or big first-party titles, not getting physical versions, people, is just, it's ridiculous. Like, you have Hi-Fi Rush, you have no physical. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, no physical. Pentiment, no physical. Grounded, no physical. Ghostwire Tokyo, no physical. On Xbox, but you had it on PlayStation. Deathloop, they at least made a physical version later, and it did come out, but so it's like, that was a timed exclusive, and it finally got a physical. Why doesn't Ghostwire get a physical? And then, the advertisement thing, I agree with you. I think that's the case, and I don't think they're I wouldn't say they're misleading or anything. I think it's just a picture out there and for the advertisement purposes. But for people who are less informed, it can look confusing and look like, hey, this looks like a physical version. Like, what's going on? Like, it just seems silly to not have a physical of that. And like, is this going to be a trend going forward where their first party games they're just going to phase out being physical? Like, like you would assume Starfield's going to have physical copies, but like, is there a chance it won't? Like, I remember there was the Redfall, and we're going to talk about it. Don't worry about the frame stuff. But one of its issues was people thought it wasn't getting a physical edition, that it would just be a piece of paper in a box with a code on it. It had to come out and address that and say, no, there's actually a disc. So that's one of the issues with that game. And then there's Quake, for example, like limited run games who finally started making some Xbox versions of things. They still haven't made an Xbox version of Quake, which is a first party IP. Like, PlayStation got that. They got Doom 64. Like, a bunch of the Double Fine games, like Broken Age and Day of the Tentacle and stuff like that. They got physical versions. Xbox, it's been crickets. Like, I don't know if they just don't care, the investment's not there, or what, but it just looks really silly to have first party games not be available for all types of purchase, like even the smaller end games, because collectors care, other people care. It's first party. Be proud of your first party. You've built this, empire that you're trying to span across the globe. You'd think you'd want to, show what you got a little bit, not, you know, hope people don't notice that there's not physical versions. It's goofy and ridiculous, and that it's an issue, and I hope they address it because it's dumb that Quake and these other games that have been given physical versions for the other platforms and their first party now don't have physical Xbox versions. Like, give me a break. Come on. Just like, enough.
Yeah. I mean, like, as someone that lives in the UK, and I'm sure, like, other people that listen from the UK, like, physical games in the UK, and not a lot of people buy them anymore. Like, for where I live, there are no video game stores there anymore at all. We haven't had a video game store in Durham for about 10 years. And, yeah, about 10 years. And even now, like, if you want to buy a physical Xbox version of something, you have to go to Amazon. A lot of supermarkets stopped selling video games, at least around here they did. So you basically have to either go to game.com or Amazon. And the problem with Amazon is, and here's my suspicion, right? I think a lot of the UK player base for Xbox have completely shifted to digital because the way Amazon works. So, and I've mentioned this in the past, but I'll mention it again. And if what I'm about to say, if it sounds familiar and the same thing happens in your country, let me know because I want to make a video about it maybe in the future. So basically, if you search for a game on Amazon, so let's say Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you'll click search and you'll get the PlayStation version. You'll scroll down and there'll be no Xbox version. And then you could type Star Wars Jedi Survivor Xbox. And the PlayStation version will be there, but no mention of Xbox. So you click on the game, and then you scroll down, and there's the little boxes where you highlight which console you want. Then there's Xbox there. That's the biggest issue. I've noticed people will say, hey, this game's not getting a physical copy, even like a third-party game, and they just assume, I think, that it's only digital. And a few people have told me that it's the same in Australia, it's the same in France, in Spain, Germany. It's an issue. I don't know why Amazon does this, and I think it's just made a lot of people go, hey, I'm just going to go all out digital. And that's probably made Microsoft think, this many people are buying digital only. Screw making, like, I think they're still going to make physical copies for, obviously Redfall and the big ones like, Starfield and, Avowed, Hellblade 2. But I think their limited amount of units shipped to be made, I think it's just too high for them to think it's justifiable. So like Hi-Fi Rush, it sold 2 million players had played that game after like a few days or whatever. Well, how many of those players would have bought the physical version? And I think Microsoft just has maybe lofty expectations to what a physical version should sell. Whereas on PlayStation and on Nintendo, the number that they have to make is obviously significantly less. Because you see like physical copies for indie games on PlayStation and on Switch all the time. And Microsoft has said like they are going to lower the minimum requirement. But first party, they clearly just have lofty expectations, in my opinion. I do think they should make physical copies, even if it's a limited amount, right? So instead of like 100,000 copies, maybe make 10,000, 5,000, if it's a smaller title. Like Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Like, do I think that would sell like 1 million copies physically? No, nobody's going to do that. But maybe, I don't know, 10,000. Like, I would love to collect a physical copy of that. And when they do Age of Empires 4 later in the year, I would love a physical copy of that as well. But it's a glaring issue. But again, I've seen people overreact to it. Like, it's the downfall of Xbox. Microsoft's no longer going to do discs. It's like, no. Like, I don't think people have to worry about that. But it is something people should voice. And, you know, if you want more physical versions of games, like Hi-Fi Rush, in my opinion, would have sold pretty decently. As opposed to, like, you know, a Halo or something. It's obviously not going to do like 12 million or whatever. But Logan, have you got anything else in this topic before we move on?
No, just that I think it's, at the very least, they should release physicals of games that they already made physical versions for on other platforms. At least make it an equal slate. Like, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get into the big topics. Beforehand, we're about to now into the show. If anyone's enjoying it, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. It really helps the channel out. Have videos coming out soon, all that stuff. Super chats are live if you want to support the channel and all that stuff. Anyway, so Xbox, Redfall, and expectations. Now, last week, even the thumbnail was about Redfall, and that was a day before the frame rate news came out, because we were just talking about, you know, this vampire hunting game in an open world. Fun times. Little did we know the next day, frame rate. By the way, when that news came out, every single game I post about on Twitter, someone since has mentioned frame rate in the comments, in the replies. Like, I posted about space combat just to test people on Twitter, right? I posted a GIF of space combat from Starfield and made a post specifically about space combat, and all the replies were frame rate. Hey, what about Redfall and its frame rate? 30 FPS, and like, we get it, right? like me posting about Starfield and getting 1 million replies about frame rate does not make Redfall magically 60, right? Now, for people new to the topic, Redfall is going to be 60 FPS at a later date, and it's going to be launching at 4K 30 FPS on the Xbox Series X and 4K, I should say 1080p 30. I think they said 1080p 30 on the Series S. Now, bit of an exhausting topic. People are wondering like what's going on. Some people are blaming the Xbox Series X and S hardware. Some people are blaming the developers. Some people are blaming Xbox. It's like, it's not the hardware's problem. We've seen gorgeous games launch at 4K 60. Like, I've got Atomic Heart footage on right now, albeit it's a single player game and it's gorgeous. But like, why is it 30 FPS at launch? Why did they say it's going to be 60 later? Because, like, look, for me personally, I prefer 60. I'll get this out of the gate. I play 60 games all the time. 30 FPS, for me, doesn't break a game, right? I play a lot of 360 games. All of those things are pretty much 30. I'm used to the 30 FPS frame rate. That being said, I prefer 60, right? Jumping into Mass Effect Legendary Edition, playing at 60, beautiful, right? You can even play it at 120 frames if you've got the correct display. But like 60 to me is a better play experience. Doesn't completely break the game. So I'm going to play the game at launch. And thankfully, it takes me absolutely forever to finish games, so I will get to experience the game before and after the update. But the conversation came out is, well, should Microsoft delay Redfall? Because isn't it an incomplete game? Again, I'm doing air quotes. I don't actually see things that way. Hear me out. Right? People are saying the game's not finished, and it's like, let's define finished, because I've seen games get performance updates later on, right after launch and whatever. Like, if the game's finished and all the content's there, it's done. It's all about optimization. They should have came out the gate and said, and just like how far away, Logan, do you think, even though there's no news or hints about it, there's no news about when the optimization is happening for 60? Because if they said at a later date, does that mean a week? A month? 2 months?
To me, I'm not sure. Like, it leaves it open to interpretation. Like, on one hand, I'm like, if it's not available yet and they don't want to delay it for this, maybe it means it's coming relatively soon. And they just said, to heck with it, we'll just have it out. And then we'll patch it pretty quickly, and, it'll be water under the bridge at that point. And another part of me is kind of like, if they're not giving a date on when it's coming, maybe it means it's going to be a hot minute till it comes out. So maybe they didn't want to have to delay the game that long. So I don't know. Like, personally, speaking as someone who has no dev experience whatsoever, like, I'm not sure how long it would take if that's the only issue to fix for the game. Like, if there's no other problems with the game and it's like ready to go, it's like 99.8% done, whatever, except for that, then I'm not sure how long it would take to do. Like, you would think it wouldn't take too long, but again, I'm not a dev, I don't know. But I think it is interesting that they didn't give a concrete idea of when it would come, like maybe this fall or soon or whatever. It just said later date.
Yeah, I mean, like, if it's like a week, right? I'd be wondering, like, why didn't they just delay it a week? Because a week isn't really going to hurt anything. If it's a day, it's the same thing. Like, maybe they need this game out to be for a specific quarter. I don't know, but like if this game did like a Plague Tale, where the game came out and it was 30, and I think they told us a week before launch or something like that. Like, people were angry. The sky was falling and all that stuff, but like, people are angry. Like, I honestly believe that it's them using an engine they aren't familiar with, because as far as I'm aware, this is not the engine they used to make Dishonored, Prey, and Deathloop, as far as I'm aware. And if that's the case, anyone can correct me in chat. So it's like, maybe it's them using a different engine, because none of their games that I've played out the gate has been 60. Right? I've still got Deathloop on the back.
They've always had frame kind of issues in some of their games. Like, I remember Prey, when it launched, it had a lot of FPS issues, and then they were able to fix it through FPS Boost, Jason Ronald and the BC team, and it's a pristine experience now. But it doesn't, honestly, thinking about it in hindsight, surprise me that there's some FPS stuff with this game.
Yeah, I remember when I played Dishonored on the 360. I think that was like 20 frames per second, if on a good day. But it does have frames per second boost now. I think the reaction was a bit over the top, right? I saw people on Twitter literally say, "I'm selling my Xbox. This is a huge disappointment." It's like, they clearly need more time to optimize. That's it. That's the only issue. I know Colt Eastwood recently spoke on about like the optimization thing, and he's right. They just need more time to optimize. We've seen time and time again where developers have literally delayed a game for optimization, and it's been better. So, like, while I do think, people were all over the top with the reaction, like, 30 frames to me is not a deal breaker. I wish it was 60. But, I mean, like, me whining about it on a podcast will not do nothing, right? I just think they should just maybe behind the scenes, talk with Microsoft, see what they can do with the optimization, even if they have to delay it a month. Like, because you have to remember, people get in their heads all screwed up about development time. If something has, I'm just using a month as an example, if a game that gets developed, it gets delayed for a month, that's not just a month. That's hundreds of man hours, because you have tons of people, upwards of 100 people working at these studios, putting 12 plus hours in a day. And then you times that to like X per day. So you have hundreds, if not thousands of man hours put into optimization. So, like, I don't understand. And the thing is, when every time something negative happens at Xbox, people lose their minds. It's the end of the world. Yet, you know, like Joseph Staten leaves Xbox. People lose their mind. The sky is fallen. You know, the earth is cracked open. We've fallen into it. Yet, the head of, like, Media Molecule leaves. No one says a word. Dreams is getting shut down. Nobody mentions a word. But all people can talk about is frame rate. Joseph is leaving, Xbox is falling. It's like, none of them are good situations, by the way. I'm not defending any of it or in favor of any of it. I'm saying that I think people overreacted, right? And then the topic switched to, well, is Starfield going to be 30? Now, I want to do a little test with people. Type a 1 in chat if you really thought Starfield was already going to be 30. So if you thought Starfield was going to be 30 frames per second, type a 1 in chat. Just a 1. Because, honestly, since they announced the game, I've thought the game was going to be 30 to begin with. Like, you have
120, baby, let's go.
Yeah, honestly, if people think Starfield is going to be 120 frames per second, 4K, 8K, screw it, 12K, 60 FPS, whatever, HDR, Mega HDR, I just don't see it. Like, the Xbox Series X and S, they are powerful consoles. They are really powerful consoles. But did people really think Starfield was going to be 60? Because I've just always assumed it'd be 30. I'll be honest. Would I love 60? Yeah. Honestly, 100%, hands down, I've just assumed it would be 30 because of what the game is. Now, does it bother me that much for Starfield? You know what? No, it doesn't. But for Redfall, it does a little bit more, because we know the difference in the games, right? One's an open world space exploration RPG where you can travel to hundreds and hundreds of different planets. The other is a open world vampire hunting game set on an island, albeit a very detailed island with lots of things to discover. And I think, the frame rate thing's going to come up. I mentioned Starfield now because the frame rate thing is going to come up in August when we find out about Starfield's, frame rate probably. Who knows, we may find out at the June event so we can get it all out of the way. Beautiful, right? But I want to mention it now is because I don't want to see all these double standards, because throughout this generation, we are going to see games come out not optimized for 60. We're going to see developers absolutely push for graphics. And this will happen on PlayStation as well. They will push graphics, and these games will be 30. Gotham Knights, beautiful game, 30 FPS. A Plague Tale Requiem, beautiful game, 30 FPS. But if I look at my shelf and look at the rest of my games, they are all 60. It's just these very few games are 30. And people are acting like the sky's fallen. And, look, I do not think Starfield, by the way, is going to be 60. I'm not going to pretend to be shocked when it's announced to be 30. I'll be shocked if it's 60, and I'll be pleasantly surprised. But, for Redfall, I just think they need to come out and just tell people, hey, it's going to be a week after launch. A month. 2 months. Or, even if they have discussed a delay internally, just be upfront about it. I'm always for transparency, by the way, if it's negative still. Be honest.
Yeah, negative news being told up front feels a lot better than a negative surprise.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to play Redfall at 60, but, I mean, here's the thing, we've talked about this in the show, and I mentioned this at the time. You can be respectful and request something and just voice your opinion about something. but like too many people like over the top, reactive. Like the amount of people I saw make videos, by the way, like proper full on clickbait, like spitting on camera, like angry that this game was going to be 30. Although for a fact they wouldn't be angry if like Zelda's going to be like what 14 frames per second. And it's probably going to get like Game of the Year nominations. But hey, it's probably going to be a damn good game. But like for Redfall, people acting over the top. And yes, it's a next-gen console. We can't really compare. But 1 minute, 60 FPS is playable, and the next minute it's not. Make up your damn minds. Again, I wish it was 60. Just the studio needs to be upfront. That's all. And I have to mention this because other people mentioned this as well. Anthony Chipmunk in chat said, I want to see the same energy when GTA 6 comes out at 30 FPS. Now, I was talking about this on Twitter last week. I'll put this in stone right now. It is the 19th of April, 2023. I'm saying right now, GTA 6 is going to be 30 FPS. It'll probably drop to 24 most of the time because that game's going to be open world, ambitious as crazy. Rockstar, they make crazy games. Their game will be 30. I'd be shooketh, absolutely shook if their game is 60. I don't see it happening at all. Hell, we still haven't got a 60 FPS patch for Red Dead. Nowhere to be seen. I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, hell, look at this. We got GTA 5 on the 360 and the PlayStation 3, 30 FPS. Then we got the remaster. Was that 60? Nope. And then we didn't get I'm ranting about Rockstar now. We didn't get an enhancement for the PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X, where that could have done 60 for that game. We didn't see that. And now, for the third time, they released the games with 60 FPS performance modes. So we had to wait 2 extra generations and 2 extra versions later to get 60. I do not think GTA 6 will be 60 FPS, by the way. Logan, do you think that?
Yeah, that like you said, they gotta wait at least another generation or two before they can milk us for that.
Yeah, I'll see that happening. Like GTA 6 will come out probably in the next 2 years. They'll milk it dry. They'll release it the generation later, maybe for free with an enhancement. And then if there's a mid-gen refresh, maybe they'll charge and do like a ultra remaster for GTA 6 because they've got to milk that cow forever. But yeah. I'm putting that out there. GTA 6, 30 FPS. Take it to the bank. Okay, anyway, we'll move on. Speaking of Xbox stuff, we've got some good things to talk about. Tango Gameworks. Now, people have been giving them praises lately because they've been coming out with some really cool games. Hi-Fi Rush surprised everybody. They announced that game with a shadow drop. And they announced it and released it an hour later. Incredible. And the cool thing about that game is it didn't leak. Like, Logan and I saw some screenshots of artwork about a week beforehand, but that was for a 1v1 PvP game with a completely different art style, obviously a completely different game. But the Hi-Fi Rush we got was amazing. And, Ghostwire Tokyo, I'm having a lot of fun with it. They can clearly create interesting worlds in many different genres. And then they made the Evil Within games. Like, Evil Within 2 is basically a Resident Evil game. It's awesome. So, like, in January, or whenever Hi-Fi Rush came out, I posed the question, could their Japanese studio make a JRPG? And what do you know? This YouTuber who has been right in the past, let me find the name because I like to credit people. Excuse me one moment. Okay, so the YouTuber, the insider, quote unquote, called Extras1S, who's been right about a bunch of different ports and stuff in the past, came out and said, Tango Gameworks is working on 2 games. One of which is a JRPG. Now, that, I'll just put it out there, that tickles my fancy. I think they could do an amazing job with the JRPG. Like, the quality of Hi-Fi Rush, of its animation, the voice acting, everything about it, you transfer that into a JRPG, the sky's the limit. Like, Logan, what do you think of this? Because like them making a JRPG is probably one of the most exciting Xbox rumors in the past decade, in my opinion.
Yeah, like Tango has quickly shot up to very high on my regarded list for studios. Like, I have yet to play a game of theirs that I did not just thoroughly love. I loved Evil Within 1. Evil Within 2 was even better. Hi Fi Rush was incredible. Like, Ghostwire Tokyo, I'm really enjoying so far. So, absolutely, like, them with a JRPG, sign me up. Day one. Let's go. That sounds incredible. Especially with the talent they have, the creativity, that they've partnered with local Japanese animation studios for different cutscenes and music and other things for their games. Like, they could go absolutely hog wild on this thing and just make this breathtaking experience. Like, this is an awesome godsend type thing if it happens.
Yeah, because Microsoft, a lot of their studios have multiple teams making multiple different projects, and like Tango, they made a third-person horror game. You could play the sequel in first person as well. With Evil Within. Then they came out with Ghostwire Tokyo, which is a first-person action-adventure magic shooter in Tokyo. And then Hi-Fi Rush, which is a rhythm-based action-adventure game with a colourful third-person character where all the characters are named after hipster drinks. Now, frankly, incredible game, but like they clearly have range. So of all studios with the talent over there, it makes the most sense. And like, if they could surprise us with Hi-Fi Rush, I totally think this room is true, based off Hi-Fi Rush. Like, who knows if it has the literally, in my opinion, if it had the same art style as Hi-Fi Rush, but it was just a JRPG, I'd be perfectly happy. But yeah, the rumor is 2 games, one of which is a JRPG. I totally see it happening. The question is the turnaround for those games, because they worked on Hi-Fi Rush since 2017. They have multiple different teams. Ghostwire Tokyo, they finished that ages ago. Obviously, they worked on the port, but outside of that, they have a team that's basically been making the game non-stop for about a year and a half-ish. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards it being true. Will we hear from it this year or see anything about it this year? No. But the good news is that Microsoft invested in a studio that could make a JRPG, which is the most exciting prospect of it, because with Square Enix not putting their games on the platform, they need JRPGs. And to have exclusive JRPGs made by Tango, it would be great. I talk about Lost Odyssey a lot because it's great. Like, it's an amazing story. The short stories in that game are incredible, which was actually surprising for a video game during the 360 era. I love the combat in that game, the characters, incredible JRPG. And they just need a studio that can do that. And we could potentially see that from Tango. That's why it's such an interesting rumor. And I'm leaning on this being 99% real. And, I'd be interested in chat. Does anyone actually want a exclusive JRPG from Xbox? And by the way, I guarantee you this. If this does happen, and they do come out with an exclusive first-party JRPG, I can guarantee you we will see port begging for it.
It's not fair.
yeah, we're going to see that all over the place, because remember Hi-Fi Rush got announced, people were like, it's cartoony. Then the reviews came out, and those same people that were like, all of a sudden wanted the game. And they were then, port begging it. Redfall, remember that? That had amazing previews. And then people were all of a sudden like, why did they cancel the PlayStation version? I wanted this version. And now they're attacking the game because of the frame rate. And these same arseholes, I'll be honest, will come out and say, I want this JRPG on PlayStation and Switch and on my Kindle Fire tablet. Like, they'll come out and say all that. Maybe not the Kindle Fire tablet thing. But yeah, guarantee it. Take it to the bank. We will see port begging for whatever Xbox's JRPG it will be. It's exciting. And, for another new game, so InXile is working on 2 games at the minute. One of which is apparently an established IP, and one of which is a new IP. Now, the new IP, apparently they've been working with a popular American sci-fi book writer, and the writer thinks that this is going to be announced this year. So, let's go off the rumors so far. InXile, they're making two RPGs. One is in an established IP, which we don't know what it is. One of which is a new IP. The rumor is one of them is a steampunk game. And apparently the steampunk one is a first-person game, from what I've gathered. Logan, that's pretty much up to date with the InXile thing, right?
Yeah, there's the steampunk rumored one where they got a guy who'd worked on God of War. They had a guy who was the head, basically the lore master at Blizzard for a long time, and a bunch of other highly talented people all on this team. Like, all systems go. This thing is shaping up to be pretty gnarly. And then you've got this other game that apparently they're working on that's an established IP. Again, this isn't a report. This is just throwing out an idea. You know Brian Fargo's history, and you know some of the IPs he has worked on in the past. One of which happens to be owned now by Xbox, and so happens that Obsidian also has had some experience with this IP, and they're rumored to maybe revisit it at some point. What if this established IP is a new Brian Fargo take on a Fallout type experience?
It could be. Like, especially with things like Shadowrun, they could basically be doing something like that because it falls in that sort of, like, you know, you could have steampunk that mixes up with cyberpunk, but excuse me. But long story short, they're making multiple games, and the good thing about Microsoft, like people can rip on them all day for the whole frame rate thing, the physical games thing, you know, but it's proven that over the years now, they clearly listen to feedback, because for the longest time, people were complaining about the amount of studios they had. They had like 5 studios back in the day, and they didn't even own the Gears license. So like now they've clearly listened, obviously the Activision thing, but they listen to feedback, and the most important part is that their studios are making multiple games, which is massive because, like, we are used to Microsoft being quiet sometimes. There have been droughts. Like, there's been droughts on all consoles, by the way, but people only mention them when they're on Xbox. Oh, by the way, Logan, speaking of droughts and all this stuff, do you know this year Microsoft will have, just off what they've announced so far, they'll have released Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, Hi-Fi Rush, Ghostwire Tokyo, Redfall, Starfield, Age of Empires 4, Forza Motorsport, and possibly Hellblade, although that's rumoured. And people are complaining about Microsoft not being able to get games out the gate. Do you know what's coming to PlayStation this year? Spider-Man.
Yeah, and do we even have a concrete date on that?
Nope. But you have these... Like, there are other content creators that will just say, Microsoft, they need better content. They need to get content more often and stuff. It's like, they've been putting out games. What the frick are we talking about? like Hi-Fi Rush came out in January. Age of Empires 2 came out in January. Minecraft Legends, I think that's out now. I got the dates mixed up. But regardless, Microsoft's having a pretty good year. So as much as people want to cry about the frame rate thing and act like it's the end of the world, Microsoft's actually releasing games. Let's be honest. Like, if Sony comes out with Spider-Man this year, what games did they release? Just Spider-Man and a Horizon Forbidden West DLC.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, noticed how these people, they will give Sony credit for Final Fantasy, yet Microsoft can't get credit for Hi-Fi Rush. They can't get, like, granted, this JRPG by Tango, I bet if they haven't even put pen to paper yet and start making it, that when that game comes out, people will still say, we can't give Microsoft credit for that. Because someone drunk once wore PlayStation on a napkin, you know, in a bar. Like that's the lunacy of the situation right now. But the good news is, on the Xbox side, they're making games. On the Nintendo side, other than Zelda, I don't know what comes out this year. But I missed the last Direct. Actually, Logan, what is coming to Switch this year outside of Zelda?
Honestly, Zelda's the one I'm aware of at the moment. I haven't heard too much from the Nintendo camp in a while.
Yeah, bit weird that, but hey, it's Microsoft having a drought. Remember, that's what people will say every single time. And here's the thing: across the board, I think everyone's going to have a good gaming year. Like the third-party releases this year look stellar. You have PlayStation getting Final Fantasy soon. The Switch is getting Zelda. We're getting Hellblade. We've just got Hi-Fi Rush. Then there's Starfield and the Forza Motorsport. We're going to get a Forza Motorsport news soon. Like, I think people need to take a chill pill. And the thing is, if you make content, I'll be honest, if you make YouTube content just openly bashing Xbox saying, oh, they need to release more games, it's like, that's easier views. Let's be honest. Like, PlayStation views, they go up. Like, if you bash Xbox, that's just how it is. But all in all, Microsoft, they're getting to a good place. All in all. But yeah, Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
Like basically, just to revisit Redfall and the whole outcry about it. Like, I'll be honest, I was pretty irritated when it was announced as not 60 FPS because to me it felt like just a further continuation of issues, like in a vacuum, just focused on that particular game. Just that for whatever reason, like every time they would get some positive PR for the game, it would go and like blast their foot with a cannon with bad PR or just missteps. Like they announce the game and it looks cool, and then everybody thinks, "Oh, this is Left 4 Dead, Borderlands, something," and then they finally get stuff out there that shows no, it is not that game. It is clearly Far Cry type, classic Dishonored, mixture kind of cool arcane thing. People are like, okay, cool, sounds good. Okay, we're on the same page again. And then oh, it's always going to be online. And it's like, why is this game that you can play solo and by yourself have to be on constantly online? Like, can you please fix that? Okay, and so everybody's mad about that. And then they're like, okay, fine. We are working on how to fix that. We will patch it out and make a fix. Okay, so that settles down. And then it's like, oh, we're releasing a physical version, but it's just a code. And then people are really mad about that. And then they're like, okay, that was a mistranslation. It's actually a disc. And so people are like, oh, okay, cool. And they calm down. And then there's the IGN just showing of the game that was less than wonderful. And everybody got really upset. And then some other people go, hey, here's my footage, and it actually looks pretty cool. So people calm down again. And then this FPS thing comes out. And it's just like, my word, guys. Like, can we not get our ducks in a row about this one game? Just this one game. Like, I think it's just all the issues about this game just added up, the constant up and downs of it, combined with some other recent things from Xbox, kind of just got on everybody's last nerve. Like, in a vacuum, I think the FPS thing is disappointing. Is it a deal breaker, major issue? No. I'm going to play it day one. I'll be honest, I'm one of, air quote, those people who does quality mode over, performance, generally speaking. Like, my FPS and stuff, I generally just, play the game for story, and that's about it, or gameplay. And there's a few of them, like Halo, I do competitively, but otherwise, I'm just for the experience. So, quality visuals is more my thing on that. Maybe there's quite a few who are actually in the same boat, and that's why they felt okay with it. But to me, it was just yet another kind of trip and fall in their face on this one particular game that just added up to get everybody angry. Because on the surface, you're right, it is absolutely ridiculous for people to freak out just about the frame rate of the game. Like, combined with all the others, though, it's like you've poked that bear like 100 times. He's gonna turn around and just wallop you. It feels like that to me.
Yeah, man, I agree. Like, they just need to get the ducks in order, like you said. But like the whole overreaction to it was just like way over the top. And do you know a little secret? I'll be honest with everyone right now. About how people don't really view, like, I think there's a noticeable difference between 30 frames and 60. Like, I think it's noticeable. But I've kept this kind of quiet. Every time I've posted Hogwarts Legacy footage on Twitter, I've had it on 30 FPS mode. Not a single person's noticed. Like, not one person has mentioned it. And it's good. Oh, it's a beautiful game. Looks amazing, and it does. But it's been 30. Like, the secret's out. Because honestly, I think for frame rate, that game doesn't really matter. But yeah, every single piece of frame rate, I should say footage I've posted on Twitter of Hogwarts Legacy, full on 30. Not a drop of 60. So yeah, put that out there. Anyway, it's been an awesome show. Great to have Logan on again. And next week we'll be back on at the exact same time. Hopefully none of our mics will mess up. Everyone in chat has been awesome today, and not a single porn bot in the house, which is good. I think that's like 11 shows in a row without a porn bot. So congratulations, everyone. Anyway, we'll be back at the same time next week. I'm hopefully going to have a video out on Thursday in regard to a particular Xbox exclusive. Anyway, we'll be back at the same time next week. Everyone's been good. We are out. Peace.